Hey, welcome to the show. I'm Christopher, aka the Bronze Age Nerd, and this is a show where I'm going to start taking a look back at my top 5 not to buy lists and look at those 3 months and 6 months down the road and see how we're doing on those picks I made. If you're not familiar with my top 5 not to buy list, basically I try to take a counterpoint to all of the hype that's out there regarding top 10 lists or top 20 lists. Or here's the top 5 to buy. You know, it seems like every content creator that does anything with comic books on the investing or speculation side does a video like that, or they look at the cover price list or whatever it is. And so I started doing these videos basically trying to deflate some of the hype or the FOMO and recalibrate how we look at some books, or at least offer my opinion to kind of help balance the scales. Those videos have proved to be pretty popular, but was I right at all? Let's find out. So you can flip ahead if you want to. There's little timestamps down below in the video, but basically the way that I've decided to do this is I asked all of you guys, my viewers, what price guide I should use, because I feel like even though eBay sold listings are my preferred method for looking at sold prices, there is some subjectivity into how you read those prices. So I wanted a standardized price guide to use as a base, not a sponsor in any way. I just needed an impartial price guide to go to. So I chose cover price based on your guys' answers. And I'll make sure I tell you guys when I'm using eBay sold listings to kind of fill in the gaps and where I got my data. Now, the timing off at the 3 months later, it's actually been a little bit more than 3 months. And that's because when I set out doing this series originally, I didn't anticipate doing this going back thing. I'm just trying to be as transparent as possible with what I'm trying to do here. And hopefully you guys follow along and find this to be kind of a fun little look back. Okay, so the first book on the list was Joker 2 second printing, and that was my number 5 pick for the week of July 23rd, 2021. And the reason that I had selected this book is because people were saying go after it. It's the first appearance of Vengeance, Bane's daughter. That's a cameo appearance, but this was ending up on some list recommending that you buy it based on that first appearance, and the second print would be lower ordered or harder to find. 2020 and 2021 are years where we saw second printings and extra printings gain a little bit more traction than they had in the past. So again, we are looking at the second printing specifically for this book. So when you look at the chart for the raw sales here, it does go back to October. Obviously, that's not far enough back for our needs because this was from July to see where we started off on here. But it's been pretty steady with a couple spikes in sales here. If you look at the raw sales data going back, let's see, I filmed this on July 23rd. So the sale right before for a 9.4, all this is for raw. Cover price does list that was $5.99, $4.70 for an 8.0, $4.70 for an 8.0, $6 a couple days later. So I think it's fair to say $5.99 would probably be a fair price to call this at that time of recording. 3 months later, up in October here, we can see the book was selling for $4.70, $4.70, $5.59, $5.99. About a week later, after 3 months later, so on Halloween there. So the same price that it was selling for before. And currently I don't see any graded sales dropped into cover price. So kind of my thoughts on this book. I do see a couple sales. They kind of look like outliers to me in this, but in September there were a couple high sales. But for the most part, like, you know, for a quick flip, if you were trying to sell in August, you were getting cover price. If you were trying to sell in October, you're getting cover price. And there's 3 higher sales in September that are noteworthy, but I don't really know if that's really representative of what this book is valued at. All right, so pick number 4 for that week was Wildcats, number 1 in a newsstand. There were some rumors about some of the characters coming to the DC proper. We do see that the current trend on this book is that it's a little bit down, barely, but let's check out the sales data. Okay, so you can see that this book did spike right around the time that I recorded that video on July 23rd, and it's been mostly steadily going down since then. There were very few sales. We see a $20 raw sale about a week after I filmed that video. It was $16 right before I filmed that video. Now, if you jump ahead, what do you see? In October, on October 2nd, there was a $12.71 sale. And in November, we have a $5.50 and a $15 sale. I think this one's pretty safe to say that it wasn't a huge mover. Okay, well, what about graded? Fair enough. I understand what you're going to say. So I think on a book like this, you'd really want to look at 9/8. Really, you know, there's some decent prices on the 9/8. $380 in November, but also $165 in November. So if you look at 9/6s, doesn't even get close. But I mean, you know, this is a a book that was heavily printed. So you'd think 9/8 are probably the price to look at. So depending on if you're talking about raw or graded, looks like some people made some money on this book graded for sure. So there was some possibility this was a good investment, although not a lot of sales data really. So only 11 recorded sales. I think we'll have to kind of keep tracking this one down the road. All right, the next book on the list was Black Widow, The Prelude. This was a movie that was given out to people as they attended the movie premiere. And let's track some sales data for this book. Pretty flat. So in July, when I recorded that, this was going for about $3.10. Last sales data I can see for it is about $3.40. So this thing has been extremely flat. Now, there were other covers for this book. For example, there was the IMAX version, which I can't find any sales data for. So this is one we'll track as time goes on, and we'll see if anything else happens with this. All right, next up, this is also related to Black Widow, of course. This was the first appearance of Yelena Belova in Inhumans 5. This is technically listed on cover price as a cameo. I'm not going to get into that debate. This is the book that people were tracking, though, at the time. And this book has had kind of an interesting up and down arc here. So let's go back and look in July on the 23rd. Around the time I recorded it, I would say it's pretty safe to say this book was going for anywhere between $200 and $130, $140, somewhere in there. So $130 to $200, that was probably kind of the range. In October, this book was going for $92, $290, $114, $56. So anywhere between $56 and $290. That's a pretty big range, but I would say the overall trend there is down. But let's talk graded copies. And for this one, we're going to look at 9/8. In July, around the 23rd, this was selling for $699. There was a sale a couple days before that for $650. So I think $650 to $750 is probably pretty fair to say. In October, the one sale for this in a 9/8 was for $550. So that's definitely a downward trend, especially since we know that in November, one sold for $594. So we're trending a little bit down. Not like it's dropped like a rock or anything like that, but I don't think it's really made anybody a ton of money. Looks like one sold in September, to be fair, for $900. Again, an outlier from the data I see here, but that's worth mentioning. All right, and finally, we're going to get to the book that I was the most nervous about putting on this list. I do try to go for one bigger book or one riskier pick when I make these lists. And for this week, it was XMen 101. Which was taking the world on fire, basically. No Phoenix joke intended there. But people were all over this book. And this book, you know, as I admitted when I made this video, this is a hot book. So let's check it out. Let's look at raw sales data. Because of quality differences, this is probably going to be a little bit more all over the map. But when we look at July, around the time I was talking about it, right before then, a 9.0, apparently, you know, an estimated 9.0 went for $1025, $975. Somebody got a steal on 183.50, or it was a low grade copy, perhaps $315. So a huge range there, but probably leaning more towards the higher end, near $1,000. Okay, in October, this book has to be going for, oh wait, a lot less. Now, again, these are raw sales, and I can, you know, claim this as a victory. You know, we're seeing 380, 266, 275. So it's either flat at best. Let's say those are likely low grade copies, lower grade copies. Well, probably some of the ones that sold back in July were lower grade copies as well. Not the $1,000 ones, but so I think that might be flat. But let's look at graded. And for graded, for a book like this, everybody's going to have their own opinion on what the proper grade is for this book. Some people would say 9/8. That's a very pricey book. So if you disagree with me on this, I totally understand. For me, I would collect at the 8.5 level as being like a really respectable grade for a book that's from this particular age. 8.5, maybe 9.0. Let's just go 9.0 just for comparison's sake here. In 9.0, there was one sale for $13.49. Now in October, it was $11.73. So a little bit down at a 9.0. If we do look at an 8.5, In July, we would have been looking at about $14.95 in the middle of the month, or $900 at the beginning of the month before it kind of started to heat up a little bit, or $1,000 maybe even around before that, before the 4th of July. Now in October, $866.81. So I think this one again, you know, you could say I'm cherry picking grades. We could look at every grade if you wanted to. But to me, I think that's pretty fair for that era. 9/8, we'll look at it just for shits and giggles. I have a feeling 9/8 would probably go up. So yeah, for 9/8, we actually don't have any current sales data. In fact, the most recent sales data was from before I made my video at 13,250. So it's kind of hard to say where this one's trending. Now we'll have to get some more sales data. Like I said, to me, that's a hard book to find in a 9/8. There's way more copies in lower grades. So yeah, not having any real sales data to go off of, I think kind of confirms that 9/8's maybe an unrealistic goal to be looking at for the values on this book. Hopefully you guys feel the same. If not, we did look at some of the lower grades as well. All right, so what do you guys think about this look back at my top 5 not to buy? I'll be doing these kind of an alternating pattern. I'll have the top 5 not to buy coming out next week, and then the following week I'll look at my next video I did for top 5 not to buy, and I'll try to do it on a more regular pattern so these videos kind of fall seamlessly for you guys. Like I said, I am tracking more data going forward to get better data for these videos in the follow-up segments. If you enjoy the videos, I do want to remind you that I actually appreciate people sharing my videos and commenting. I don't ask you to like and subscribe, but those things matter more to me. Also, you can support me on my Ko-fi, or you become a channel member if you want to. Both of those things help support me as a channel as well, so I can continue, you know, paying for things like cover price and making these videos and doing all that stuff. So I do appreciate that. Thanks for watching this video, and I want to remind you, as always, hey. Read comics every day.